Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, Choosing Pathways to Success, the Power is Yours. So tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about Justin and myself, Jenny Watson, and talking about some of our strategies and choices that we've made to get to where we are. So as always, it's really important that before you make any decisions, that you do the research that you need to do, you ask the questions that you need to ask in order to make sure that if you are purchasing property, that it's the right property for you and the right thing for you to do. So who are we? We are Justin and Jenny Watson. We are both 33 years old. We both work full-time. We've got a 2-year-old toddler, Olivia, who we like to call our tornado because she runs through the house and has a whirlwind behind her. We joined the property club in 2009 and became property millionaires in 2012. We have learnt so much through the club and acquired a couple of properties and found the club to be so helpful and useful that in 2016 we decided that we wanted to give back and help educate and coach people through their investment journey, and we became property mentors. We also became Young Investors Club ambassadors in 2016, and we became the presidents of the YIC in 2018. The reason behind our involvement in the Young Investors Club is obviously we are of the younger generation, and for us, we have thought about our retirement and our future, and we've put actions in place to make that happen. But unfortunately, not everyone has thought that far ahead, and so we're trying really hard to spread the word around to our generation and with our family and friends, because we are worried for them and what they're going to do in their retirement. But we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. And it's probably important for you to know while we're talking tonight that we don't earn millions of dollars. So we certainly haven't got to where we are from high incomes. We are very much on average incomes for our day-to-day jobs. So why are we talking to you tonight? Like I said, we've worked hard to build our property portfolio to lead us into retirement, and we are grateful for the knowledge and information that's been shared with us to get us to where we are. So we're certainly not worried or terrified about heading into retirement. With the way that we've set things up, we're quite comfortable. And with many years of working ahead of us, we'll be even more comfortable when the inevitable comes. So our goal is to help others with strategies to build wealth for their future, particularly the younger generation that will need to be self-funding into retirement. So one of the things that our generation don't think about, unfortunately, is the fact that there probably won't be a pension when we retire, and super certainly isn't going to cut it. So we do need to take action and take other steps in order to make sure that we are sufficient. So a little bit about our background. We moved out of home when we were 17 as Justin joined the Air Force. And Justin was bringing home around $600 a fortnight. I was bringing home $400, so not a lot of money. When we bought our first property in 2007, Justin was on $50K per year and I was on $45. So how did we buy our first property? We didn't use the bank of mum and dad. Unfortunately, our parents weren't in a position to help us out, but we did buy when we could afford. So we didn't wait, we bought when we could, and we bought what we could afford. So we certainly didn't buy any big condos in the CBD. We certainly bought what and where we could afford. So that was out of town and interstate. We rented it out while we rented so that someone else was paying the mortgage. It's known as rent vesting. We like to think that we started a trend. And although we missed out on the first homeowners grant, the rent that we raised during the time when we purchased our property and the time in the market, it was certainly worth the trade-off. So in short, how we bought our first property was we were realistic with our expectations. Our goal when we bought our property in 2007, we were 21 years old, was not to buy the greatest, not to buy the newest, certainly not to buy in the trendiest area, and not to buy down the road, but to buy where we could with what we had, and this meant interstate. So we were living in Sydney and we purchased in Victoria. Our property portfolio, our first property that we purchased was in 2007 in Victoria, Romsey. We paid $228,000 and it's now worth around $500,000. In 2010, we purchased our first club property in 8 Mile Plains for $345,000 and it's now worth $420,000. In 2013, we purchased our next club property in St Mary's in Sydney. We paid $319,000 and it's now worth around $440,000. In 2015, another club property in Kedron, we paid $460,000 and it's still around the same value now, but things are starting to head on up in terms of value. And in 2017, we bought in WA at the bottom of the market at $360,000 and it's now still worth the $360,000. So in short, our portfolio cost $1.7 million, and the value of our portfolio today is roughly around $2.2 million. So we've already made around $470,000 in 11 years, and we've saved about $120,000 in tax. So why did we take action when we did? Because we want financial freedom now and into the future, and we realised that the best time to start was as soon as possible while we still had working life ahead of us. We talk a lot to other investors, other people wanting to get into the market and build a portfolio. And when we're talking to the older generation, we constantly hear, I wish we started when you started. So that's part of the word that we want to spread to everyone is you've actually got opportunity. You've got such a good opportunity to make such a big difference to your life. And we want to see people take that up. So if we waited and we didn't start until right now, it would have cost us $588,000. So $470 in property growth and $120 that we would have paid to the tax man when we've been getting that back over the 11 years. And the good news for us is we've still got 20 to 30 years of work ahead of us. So that's even more money and more savings. So how did we do it? We considered our expectations versus reality and we realigned our expectations. We made smart choices early on. We budgeted. We built on our knowledge. So before we could purchase, we spent the time building on our knowledge, exploring the club, and understanding all that we could about property and how to build a portfolio. We use the services of the club, the free services and all the experience that comes with the club. And again, we didn't borrow from the bank of mum and dad. So I've already mentioned that we are in one of the younger generations. I think we fall into the millennial category. And although we do fall into that category, we've got a saying in our household, kids today. And what we mean by that is, when considering buying their first home, the younger generation today, they tend to want to buy a house like what their parents have. So they've got expectations of this big $1 million house in the CBD, and the first thing that they need to do is rethink those expectations. The reality is that young home buyers need to realign to what they can afford. So mum and dad have had many more years of property growth than the young home buyer. And the reality is probably more like something like a $500,000 house in the suburbs. So what kind of choices did we make early on in order to enable us to have 5 properties in our portfolio at 33? So different things like instead of a $30,000 wedding, we spent $10,000. Best night of our lives. We hired out our favourite restaurant. Really good memories. And it just wasn't necessary for us to spend that extra $20,000 than what people are spending today. And the reality is, unfortunately, I think that $30K has, doubled in value over time in terms of how much people are spending on weddings. So instead of buying a house in the CBD to live in, we bought 60 k's out of the city. That's where we live today. We love it here. We feel like when we leave work and we come home, we've gone home. We're nowhere near work, and we get to have our weekends. So instead of keeping up with the Joneses, we spend our money on things that we like and things that are important to us. So for us, we don't mind if we don't have the latest smartphone or the latest technology. As long as we have what we need it to do, we're more than happy. So another example, when Justin was in the Defence Force, he had a couple of deployments overseas, and with that came good chunks of money around the 30K mark. And when they all got back, Justin's friends were purchasing expensive cars. So at the time, they were buying WRXs for around 60K. Justin continued driving his '88 Astra that he paid $3,500 for, and instead of buying a new car, he bought a house. So today, Justin's friends' WRXs are worth around $4,000. Justin's '88 Astra is long gone, didn't survive, and so his 30K house deposit is now $250,000 in property growth. So by making a smarter choice with our money, it certainly paid off for us, and it started the way for our portfolio. So because we made smart choices early on, we now get to enjoy things like holidays, comfortable cars. So we certainly don't have Ferraris, but we do have comfortable cars. I was able to take time off for maternity leave, and we continue to build on our property portfolio. So the strategies that got us to where we are include arming ourselves with as much information as possible before we were in a position to buy. So we didn't waste time. Even though we weren't able to do anything, we were educating ourselves, and that way we were ready to buy as soon as we could afford it. We treat our portfolio as a business, so we have no emotional connection to our properties. We often find when people are looking to purchase a property that they want it to be in their local area, they want it to have this, they want it to have that, and they want it to look good. And the reality is that when you're renting it out, it needs to be rentable. So what's perfect for you may not be perfect for your tenant. And having that emotional connection can make it difficult at times when your tenants may not keep it as clean or as tidy as you would. So it can become quite disappointing. So you're best off not having that emotional connection and treating it like a business. So we always purchase as soon as we're financially able. So whether that's drawing down on equity or whether it's making the next purchase. You'll notice too that our portfolio is diverse in terms of location. So we wanted to make sure that we maximise the benefits in each state. So when one state's performing better than another, we will get the benefits of that, even though one of the other state may not be performing. There's generally speaking one state that's on the rise. So we like to make sure that there's always good news for us. Again, being realistic with your expectations, can't stress this enough. It's one of the biggest reasons why we've got what we've got today. Avoid wasting time to buy bigger and better. So what I mean by avoid wasting time, the amount of time people spend trying to save up the deposit to get a bigger and better house is time wasted that's not in the market. So missing out on that property growth, missing out on those tax savings. So make a purchase when you can. So So being a part of the club, you're already, even if you don't have a property portfolio, you're already taking positive steps towards your portfolio's future. You're already learning, you're sharing, and you're networking with experts to help you make smart choices. So how else can the club help you build your portfolio? Strategies to help you choose successful pathways. And some of the club assistance that we provide are cash analysis programs. So if you've got your eye on a property, your property mentor can run the figures specific to you so that you've got a really good understanding of how much that property is going to cost you. So breaking it down week by week, it certainly gives you a better understanding of that true cost once it's taken into account your rental income, your mortgage, any body corporates and all those sorts of things. So that's a really good program. The FIDO, the Financial Independence Date Organiser, definitely one of my favourites. So this is the program that your mentor can run that will basically tell you how many properties you need to purchase in order to retire on what you want to retire on. So if the results are too shocking, you can adjust as necessary. So a really good tool to help you set your goals for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years. So definitely advise to touch base with your mentor to run through a FIDO. An absolute must every 6 months is a financial wealth check. So hopefully we all go off to the doctors for a health check as we need to, make sure we're all fit and proper. You need to be doing that with your finances as well. Situations change, and it could mean something as simple as a minute pay rise at work. It could put you in a completely different category for capacity for lending. So it's always important that every 6 months you do your financial wealth check, filling out a form with your mentor and sending it through to one of our club brokers. It'll give you a good indication as to where you are with your finances. We have our researcher panels, all of their years of experience and knowledge in picking good properties. So there's a mountain of things that they look for when they're picking properties to be listed with the club. It's always handy to have those researchers doing all of that hard work for us. And of course, your property mentor. Your property mentor should be your BFF during your property journey. You can vent to your property mentor. You can bounce ideas with your property mentor and hear about their experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's really important that you hear all of it. So certainly get in touch with your property mentor in order to work through your investment journey. So I mentioned earlier on that a big factor for us is really trying to spread the word amongst our generation that we have the power, we have the need to take action in order to set ourselves up for our future. Nobody else is going to look after it for us, not the government, not our super. So it's really important that we do take the steps necessary so that we can enjoy our lifestyle when we do retire. So a part of helping encourage people to embark on a property portfolio journey, we are offering for every member who refers another member who makes a purchase a $2,000 help a mate reward. So check that out because it's such a good cause in terms of really educating people on the need. So I encourage you to have a look at that. So that's all for tonight. Just wanted to share our experiences with you. I think it's a good idea that every now and then we touch base on that to hopefully inspire some people and help to understand how we got to where we got to. So thanks so much for your participation tonight, and we'll see you next month.